What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host and I am having a great week this week. This week has been awesome for me. I hope all of you all are having a good week as well. And at the very least, I hope your week is going better than Bud Light's week. Because it appears that Bud Light, yes, the beer company, Bud Light, is having the worst week ever in the company's history. But this is a self-inflicted wound. I don't know why, but for some reason, these companies like doing idiotic things that make them lose money. And about a couple of weeks ago, Bud Light thought it was a good idea to sponsor someone by the name of Dylan Mulvaney. If you have not heard of Dylan Mulvaney, then that is a good thing. Go ahead and click off of this video if you need to, because it's best that you don't know who this person is. But if you know who Dylan Mulvaney is, then you know that they became famous from making a mockery of women and gay men. I seriously do not understand how anyone from any demographic could support someone like Dylan Mulvaney, who runs around pretending to be a little girl, who acts like the character of a little girl, who is being celebrated right now for going through their first year of being a woman. Seriously, I feel like this is a slap in the face to all women. Here we have a grown man that decided to put on a dress and make TikTok videos pretending to be a 9-year-old girl. And they have received millions upon millions of dollars and endorsements from companies like Bud Light and Nike for their first year of pretending to be a woman. Imagine that. As all of you all go about your daily lives, a lot of you all, most of my audience, in fact, is women. I have more women viewers than men viewers by a large margin. And I know for a fact that none of these companies have ever celebrated you all. Imagine living your whole life as a woman, a real woman, with nothing to show for it, as opposed to a man who pretends to be a woman for 365 days and gets millions of dollars and gets his weird, creepy-looking face plastered on the side of a beer can. That's what we're dealing with here, folks. Now, the powers that be, the mainstream media and certain activists, they want you all to believe that this is a pushback. That being against Dylan Mulvaney being sponsored by Bud Light is anti-LGBTQI+2A. I'm sorry, I didn't Google it today. I'm sure they've added some more letters and numbers. But they want you to believe that this pushback is anti-LGBTQ. When in reality, it's not. Bud Light and other beer companies have done their gay pride campaigns in the past. And yeah, I'm sure some people had an issue with it, but it didn't cause much of an uproar. The reason why there is an uproar here is because the person Dylan Mulvaney is. Dylan Mulvaney is very much the person that the mainstream media and the establishment has chosen to try to indoctrinate your kids. They're on TikTok constantly making videos that are so cringeworthy that you wonder, who do these videos really appeal to? Well, in reality, they're playing a character kind of like something you would see on Nick Jr. or on Disney's Playhouse. In reality, the videos, they aren't tailored to adults. They're made for little kids in order to confuse them. Now, Dylan Mulvaney didn't get famous on his own. He's been trying to get famous for years. He's been on The Price is Right, various other TV shows. But Dylan Mulvaney got boosted into superstardom artificially by the powers that be and the establishment, we'll just call them that, and by people who are opposed to Dylan Mulvaney. In fact, Dylan Mulvaney gets more reshares and more clout from people who hate him as opposed to people who support him. And that's where Bud Light really made a misstep. Because the reality is, I can't speak for everyone. And communities, various communities, minorities and sexualities, whatever, they're not monoliths. So the gay community doesn't move in lockstep. The gay community has various diverse people with different points of views and opinions. But I've heard a lot from the gay community about this, and for the most part, they don't like Dylan Mulvaney either. I think most men know that Dylan Mulvaney prances around as like a hyper exaggerated like character of a gay man who pretends to be this character of a little girl who's claiming to be transitioning into a woman, but in reality I don't even much believe that. I think it's all for clout. Well, Bud Light had to find out the hard way that no one really supports Dylan Mulvaney. Not even gay people. In fact, I think a lot of gay people hate this dude more than straight people. Because people like him are the people who are a driving force to giving their community a bad name. I don't think that people in the gay community fought for certain rights and fought to be accepted for so long just for people like Dylan Mulvaney to come in and ruin everything. Because there's been, this isn't progress. Like, they are digressing. That's what I believe. But anyway, Bud Light is losing money. It's basically burning money at this point. And they want you all to believe that everything is fine. They want you all to believe that everything is fine, but it is not. The backlash has been severe. The stock is dropping. They're trying to pretend, they're trying to show fake numbers saying that, that Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch, it was at an all-time high. And that's partially true. It was at an all-time high. It was tracking very good until this Dylan Mulvaney stunt. Now, it is dropping. So don't let them try to confuse you with what's going on here. This is not a win for Bud Light. And I mean, even without looking at the stock market, you have to use your common sense. This is an ad when they sponsor Dylan Mulvaney. That's something that would appeal to a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of people. It's not like the trans community makes up a large portion of our society. In fact, they make up a very small portion. They're just amplified so much by social media that you think there's more of them than what they are. So in reality, this little ad sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney, it probably appealed to all of about 6 dozen people, if that, while alienated the entire base of supporters who drink Bud Light. And just to let you all know, I don't drink Bud Light, and I don't suggest that anyone else does. And that was before this stuff. But I want to dive into this article so we can all have a solid understanding of some of the backlash that's going on. Bud Light suffered a bloodbath this past weekend. Consumers across the U.S. revolted against the nation's top-selling beer brand after it stepped recklessly into the culture wars last week with its new spokesperson, trans TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney, according to bar owners and beer industry experts around the country. I think society flexes its muscles sometimes and reminds manufacturers that the consumer is still in charge. Jeff Fitter, owner of Case and Bucks, a restaurant and sports bar in Barnhart, Missouri, says. In Bud Light's effort to be inclusive, they excluded almost everybody else, including their traditional audience. I want to pause right there because this is a perfect example of what a lot of this trans movement is doing. They claim that they want to be inclusive, but when they say that, what they want is they want men in women's bathrooms and men in women's sports. And it's rarely the other way around. You don't see women coming in men's sports leagues dominating, and you don't really see women trying to use men's bathrooms. It's mainly mentally ill men and men with fetishes, weird kinks, and men who absolutely hate women that are doing this stuff. So I understand wanting to be inclusive, but when you're being so inclusive that you're excluding people, That's the problem. Being inclusive and allowing men to compete in women's sports, you're only harming women. So there's a point where being inclusive gets in the way of other things. So that's why I really have a problem with this whole inclusivity talk, because usually it has to do with basically knocking women out of women's spaces. But let's go ahead and dive back in. He cited sports fans, working people, and women as loyal Bud Light consumers, the brand suddenly excluded in its race to go woke. Bud Light maker Anheuser-Busch is headquartered in nearby St. Louis, but even Mr. Fritter's bar witnessed a catastrophic decrease in sales of the hometown suds among loyal and local consumers this week. Damn, that gave me an issue. Sales of Anheuser-Busch bottled products dropped 30% over the past week, while drought beer plummeted 50%, the owner said. Similar stories are found around the country. Bud Light normally outsells rival products Miller Lite and Coors Light 25-1 at Braintree Brewhouse in Massachusetts, a sprawling sports bar just outside Boston. Not this week. 80% of Bud Light drinkers ordered something else this week, Brewhouse owner Alex Caceres said. While the 20% who did order Bud Light weren't on social media and hadn't heard yet about the new pitch person for Bud Light. They did not order it again, he said, after other patrons told them about the Bud Light marketing misfire. One pub in Hell's Kitchen, a New York City neighborhood known for its large and vocal gay community, reported that Bud Light draft sales dropped 58% this week, while Bud Light bottle sales were down 70%. Bud Light's decision to dive into the culture wars was a bad decision that defied virtually every rule in building brands and marketing. And that is a fact. When you're a company like Bud Light, you need to appeal to everyone. You need to appeal to people like Dylan Mulvaney, and you need to appeal to people like you all agreeing with my words while watching this video. You don't alienate half of the country. You don't alienate your consumer base. Now, when it comes to someone like me, when running a YouTube channel, sharing opinions and covering news, I can't help but sometimes cause a divide in my viewership. I can't appeal to everyone because opinions aren't going to appeal to everyone, right? But when you have a product like beer, that's supposed to appeal to everyone. There isn't supposed to be any opinions really behind that. Yet these companies don't realize that. This is no different than what we are witnessing in the entertainment industry. I don't know as much about beer as I do the entertainment industry. And I can tell you, this is very similar to what we're seeing with Disney and their recent movies, where they feel as if they got to push this messaging. They got to push certain agendas. They got to put this propaganda and shove it down your throat. And then they wonder why their stock is dropping. They wonder why less people are showing up to the movie theater to see their movies. It's because they're pushing this nonsense. But all of these companies are adamant about doing it. Bud Light, Disney, they have it in common. And the thing is, it's not good economics. It's not good for their business. And they have to know that. They have to realize that they're going to lose money if they keep doing this. So why do they keep doing it? It's not because they think they're preaching the right thing. It's not because they believe in a lot of the stuff they preach. I mean, Disney films movies outside of concentration camps in China. Disney takes the black people off of their movie posters when promoting movies in China. So they don't care about diversity. They don't care about inclusivity. Bud Light doesn't either. What they're doing is they're trying to ready themselves for a new age that is rolling in, where ESG scores take over. And it's going to be all about virtue signaling, because virtue signaling gets you higher up as a business. That's another conversation for another day. But I don't really see an end to this. I know that we could answer back with our wallets, and people can boycott. I don't have to boycott Bud Light because I don't drink Bud Light. I'm not sitting here like, yeah, you need to take your Bud Light and go blow it up with a missile launcher like Kid Rock. I'm not that type of person, but if that's your thing, fine. I'm not riled up like, yeah, Kid Rock, blow up the Bud Light. That's not me. I understand some people love that stuff, but that's not me. But at the same time, I'm not going to support this. And I wasn't supporting this beforehand, so it's not a problem for me. But let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. There's some other stuff to do with this story that I want to dive into. I want to talk about the person who made the decision to sponsor Dylan and other things as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments while you're down there. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and remember, always remain opinionated.